What is up, guys? Just going to walk through market update for today. Now, as of yesterday's market update for the session and for the week, it's going exactly as planned. Now, yesterday I did take two break evens on EU. I took this one here, which ended up running and hitting desired take profit, and then this one here, which was a break even late last night, which was half a risk given how low we were in this current range, and that was a break even, which ended up going from the area above, which I'm not surprised with. Like I said, this entire area would be used as a trap, and as you can see, all it is trap buyers in basically all day yesterday. So yeah, unfortunately, just no way to kind of catch that. No news Monday. You're due for a very, very slow move, especially when we're going against the current internal structure cycle at the moment. On the 15-minute, you're going to get slow movements like that. And unfortunately, like I said, just being so slow, there was no follow through. But it did go from that original limit, and I'll obviously walk through that in a video, but I'm not going to hold through 10 hours of price action, 12 hours of price action to hit a 1 to 3. It's just not worth it. Statistically, doesn't make a lot of sense, but on a high time frame, everything played out how it should have. So coming into today, I'm looking to continue with that current momentum. If I jump on the 4 hour, as you can see, it's kind of playing out perfectly. We are due for a bit of a retracement of some sort. It's not really giving that at the moment, but I still want to sell. Now, on the 15-minute, we've actually come into the first point that I think that holds weight. So coming into today, I would like to buy. Reason I would like to buy, this broke through enough structure that it's somewhat important to me that we actually use this point and it gives a reaction. It is the first internal break and resulted in the first internal break. So this is a 4 hour break here. It was the last demand that broke that 4 hour. So I'm expecting a reaction. Now, if it doesn't, that's completely fine. I would actually like to come and take this internal low. So we've made equal lows now. All I'm looking for is just sweep that, buy up, possibly come take this high, or even come up to that area which we wanted price to kind of get to yesterday before we sold. So that's really, really clean as we've built up a lot of liquidity here. On the opposite of that, I am quite happy to keep selling. There's just nothing for me to do here in terms of selling. So if we do get the buy, it'll be a retracement buy to then sell. Or if we come and take this low, this inducement of this low is very, very clean in my opinion. It takes out really good liquidity. I'm actually happy to buy off of this. So they're the two options. Looking at today is we get retracement buys to here as a minimum, or we get that here. We get that here. Either way, selling from areas like this makes more sense. Like I said, now we've completed our 4 hour structure, it makes sense to just keep selling. Buyers will be the less probable approach basically all week. But from a point like this, it makes a lot of sense. You've got things like Asia low take, Asia high targets, you've got trend line build up, you've got recent structure build up, you've got really, really slow price action, which builds that liquidity. So there's a lot of things that kind of map out the chance to buy and catch a long-term buy. And by long-term, I mean like for the day, but long-term for the week, selling down to these equal lows here and the equal lows below us on GU is actually the main target. So like I said, very, very straightforward and simple. Buyers, and then literally sells anywhere from here. Okay, straightforward and simple. Now GU, more or less the same thing. Everything played out perfect yesterday. There was no entries for me yesterday on GU, which is a shame. Like I said, this point would more likely be a trap. What did it do? It just constantly trapped buyers in. So if you're watching this and you were wondering why that's the case, take note of what price has done. Now, like I said, this point also structurally is a trap for me as well, and that can be seen by the slow retracement up, push through into this area. This inducement doesn't mean anything to me, so what I'm kind of wanting to have happen is a move up to buy from here. So I'm looking to sell. I don't really want to buy from this point personally. I would like to see that. Okay, that's what I'm looking for coming into today. If that's not the case, and we do push up first, I don't actually like buys from this point. I don't think it will hold long term. My initial targets would literally just be this point here. So if price does push up, I don't think we have enough targets. If I can't reach at least a 1 to 2 or a 1 to 3 in this range in a buy, I'm not going to bother. So I would much rather take the sells from this area here or take the buys off of the take of this liquidity. This liquidity lines up with EU either mitigating further in that point or taking the liquidity below it. So it's actually a lot better, and the divergence works a lot better to buy. And then, like I said, just sells off of this area here is quite clean. We've got this area of demand to supply that sits in here. So if we can get some type of an inducement into a mitigation in this area, sells from here is actually very, very clean. So they're kind of the two options, ping-ponging between those. And like I said on EU, long-term sells makes more sense. If we jump on the 4 hour, it's giving the exact reaction I thought it would. I'm looking for that retracement now to push through and drive through this area. Reacting anywhere off of this point to come and take this high doesn't make a lot of sense. Now we've kind of pushed further into this leg, pull up, sells, or wait for the take to catch a retracement, buys to sells. Okay, so 4 hour outlook's playing out to a T, which is really, really clean to see. Now, if I jump on USDCAD and have a look, we'll jump out to the hourly. Like I said yesterday, we were acting off that exact point that I thought we would. There was no trades for me in here either. Buys make sense, which is why sells make sense on EU and GU. So what I would kind of be looking for is, now we've got more or less this internal break now, is I want liquidity generated at this area. So given if we go down and have a look, we've got a really, really nice point here. All I would be looking for is liquidity to slow down, move itself like this, use that liquidity to then buy and continue up, or I'm looking for initial sells here, so you can look to sell off of the take of this. That is completely valid. That's a valid piece of liquidity to then break even target here, targeting this area of demand. So you've got either sells from this point through this point, or you've got the better option, which is building liquidity here, breaking the high, taking that liquidity, and then continuing that buy, targeting that liquidity. Okay, so they're the two entry schematics, I guess you could call them, outlooks on USDCAD today, but both of them work on the preference that I don't think this point will hold. So I'm looking for this point to just prove that liquidity is being generated here, and then I want to target it. You can sell because we have taken valid liquidity, but like I said, this point long term should not hold, which lines up with EU and GU at the same time, which is perfect. Now gold, funnily enough, went off the exact point I marked out yesterday, which is really, really clean. Took the liquidity that we wanted to, perfect at the end of the last week. We've then pushed up further from that point. Like I said, once we're ping-ponging this area, realistically, this is the great buy area. Once we've broken internal and broken a second internal, you could have used that yesterday. There is just no entries in here, and there's no entries in here. It's very pull down, push up type price action. I think sells from here actually make a little bit of sense because this demand doesn't hold weight. It hasn't broken through a high. In fact, we've actually internally induced at the top of this leg, which is really, really clean. So what I would be looking for is this area here to basically come and take some type of liquidity, maybe take this high and then sell through these lows to come and target this lot of liquidity, which I marked out yesterday as our long-term buyers, okay? So everything's playing out how it should on gold. Really, really good. I'll put an alert here. If price wants to come up here, I'm happy to sell it. Basically off the take of this point here to continue with that selling momentum, which will be really nice because there's lots of buy in the market and we're due for a bit of a sell-off. That 15-minute structure is quite clean. But other than that, EU and GU, main ones today, they're the options. I'll leave them on the screen there. Any questions, chuck them in the Telegram and we'll go from there. Like I said, 2 break-evens. I will be breaking down and coming to YouTube over the next couple of days. Let's have another good day. It's Tuesday now. We get a bit of movement and let's go from there.